Good morning, everyone. It's Charlie Craven here with Charlie Slybox, back with episode 2 of CFB Worker Interviews. This week, featuring Max Beauchene, and it just happens to be Max's 29th birthday today. And I know a lot of you are thinking, there's no way Max is 29, and trust me, he does not act as such. So it's no surprise that you would not believe that he's 29, but he is indeed. And
an old man, one of the ancients now.
You are. You're becoming an old.
Yep.
One more year and you'll be officially an old.
I know. I'll be dead.
That'll be nice. Well, three olds. Well, I'm gonna have to get rid of all you guys and just hire some more youngs.
Get some more young
youths.
blood in here, damn.
So, Max, how long have you worked here at Charlie Slybox?
Just over 2 years. Almost exactly 2 years.
Is it really?
Because I started beginning of September.
Yeah,
whenever
I think
did.
that's right.
So yeah,
that's right. Yep.
Yeah. So.
Where'd you come from? Tell us about.
So I came from. I guess you want the whole arc. I guess
We'll make it quick. I mean, we're not that interested.
I grew up in North Carolina. Grew up just gear fishing. Saltwater stuff. Caught flounder, caught redfish, stuff like that. I went to school up in Massachusetts. That's where I first did the trout thing. And then I lived in Florida for a little bit, also doing redfish, and came out here with an ex-girlfriend of mine. That's how, Colorado happened.
You ended up here.
And I really wanted to be in the industry as a redfish guide, really, honestly. And
It was harder to do in Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I knew I was going to move out here, was right when COVID started. We knew we were going to come out here. So I knew that gear fishing wasn't going to get me into the industry out here, and I still wanted to do it. So I got myself a fly rod and a vise back there before I moved out here, and just started tying. And I used to just bring the fly rod out to flats on my boat, like when I was done gear fishing, and just try to cast and all that kind of stuff. And that's how I ended up here. And the girlfriend thing didn't work out, but the trout thing did.
Sometimes
so
things
here
just
we
work out
are.
the way they're supposed to.
Yes, it was.
God
Yes, it
puts
did.
things in your path.
Yes, it.
How did you end up here at Charlie Slybox?
Now that is actually
It is. That's
a
why
funny story.
Yes.
So I had been working in the restaurant industry, doing fine dining out here in Denver, and I was actually frequenting another fly shop. And when I tried to, I know, right? Jesus Christ. But I tried to get a job there when I moved into the industry, and they turned me down, which was kind of a gut shot for me because I'd been going there for a while, and that was kind of my whole plan, you know what I mean? So, and I was kind of under the impression that, like, man, I'm not going to get in any of these places if they don't know who I am and, like, have a reputation, all that stuff. And I'd been in here one time because I moved over to this side of town. Came in once to see it and was like blown away, low-key intimidated, honestly, because I really learned to tie off our YouTube and stuff, which is kind of a crazy full circle thing. But then, yeah, I remember so distinctly, I was sitting on my couch in an apartment. The restaurant that I had just worked at had closed, and I didn't. Again, just funny full circle stuff. I didn't follow us on Instagram, and it popped up on my suggested, like, you should follow thing, and I clicked on it, and the first post was now hiring, and it was like,
I didn't know that.
yeah, no, it was like, and it was like 10 or 11 days old, and I was like, dude, fuck, there's no way that this is still open, you know what I mean? But I was like, it felt like a sign, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I sent an email to you because your email was on there, and you responded in like 2 or 3 hours, and you were like, oh, like, when can I come down, or when can you be down here? And I was like, now, like, I can be down here right now. And I think I did. I think I literally came that afternoon, and I remember sitting at this desk over where the camera is, and you were sitting here, and Junior was standing right there against the wall trying to look intimidating, and
probably did a pretty good job.
No, seriously, and I don't know. Like, you guys didn't even really interview me, honestly.
No, I mean, in hindsight, just for the record, Max has been one of the best hires I've ever had. And in hindsight, I don't typically, and you've seen this since then, I don't really do a in-depth interview. It's more of a vibe check kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you throw some shit at the wall sometimes and see how it goes. You impressed upon me as being at, and I've actually had people say this about you since then, that you are at the pinnacle of your interest in fly fishing.
Yeah.
Which is perfect for being in the fly shop.
For sure.
And I think you relay that very well. I mean, you're super gung ho about everything, and that's a big thing that that gung ho is a thing you need to be around here.
Yeah,
It's,
no, for
it's
sure.
ezy to burn yourself out, and I think you've done a great job. I didn't know that you would do that.
Yeah.
From
No,
the
absolutely.
beginning, but I think that is to your credit. Coming in, not a beginner.
But in a lot of
into
ways,
some pretty fast company,
Yep.
And getting up to speed pretty darn quick,
Yep.
and moving right up through the pack.
Yeah. No, I mean, I felt a lot of. Dude, I so remember coming in because I brought my fly boxes because I was like, how?
Yep, I remember that.
I was like, how are they going to know that I tie? You know what I mean? And like in hindsight, like I didn't even really fucking tie. Like I thought I was a good tire. You know what I mean? And it's funny how working here has like broken down so much of the ego that I had
Sure,
coming in
sure.
here, and then also like built it back up in certain
Absolutely,
ways. You
yep.
know what I mean? As you kind of get more, but I don't know. I've always, like I said, it's so funny because so this place was so instrumental in me learning how to tie and getting into the industry and stuff like that before I even stepped foot in the shop, that I've always felt like a pretty like legit sense of responsibility being
Sure,
here. You know
sure.
what I mean? And like never wanting to not know the answer to the question. Like I'm sure you remember, man, when I first
Yep,
started, like
yep.
coming in with those big lists of
Yep,
questions and
yep.
just being like, what hook for this, what material for that,
Sure.
all that kind of stuff. Because I don't know. I always just felt like employees at Charlie's Flybox should have the fucking answers.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, one of the not to steal your interview, but one of the
Yeah.
things that I've always said in this industry is you can't be afraid to say I don't know. That's
Yeah.
a pretty powerful answer, because you can't know everything. I don't know everything, and I say I don't know all the time. We can find out, we can figure it out.
Yep.
But I think all of you guys honestly are really good at that. And if you don't know the answer and the other guy does, you listen to what that answer is.
Yep.
I've said it a million times. This is the best staff I've ever had.
Well, and that's one of the coolest things about working here too, because it's not just the best. Like, and I appreciate you saying that. Which we all do, but it's like I think one of my favorite things about working here is also that there's so much to pull from our customers. Like,
for sure.
so many guys when you start picking their brains. You know what I mean? Like, I remember there was a guy 2 years ago who was doing like, I'm not gonna blow out his stuff, but he was like doing some daytime mousing stuff on like relatively well-known river. You know what I mean? Like, you just never would have guessed.
Sure.
And you start picking this guy's brain, and like he's got his own little mice that he's designing. You know what I mean? It's just everybody's got their little things that you come in here thinking. It's such a solitary sport. You know what I mean? Like you come in here thinking like I'm the most serious guy.
Yep.
Like I'm the
Yep.
I take this. I do this the most.
This is what I do. Yeah.
And then it's like, you kind of get in the river with everybody else at the proverbial river, and you kind of understand that, like, man, like there's a lot of people been taking this seriously for a real long time.
That's a good way of putting it. After only 40 years, I think I still feel the same way. So yeah, that's not anything out of the ordinary. There's always somebody.
Matt used to say it to me. Matt Winkler, because I'd just be so desperate for attention, you know what I mean? And so desperate for the validation. And Winkler would just be like, yeah, man, you're going to be like a great tire in like 20 years.
I'm gonna lead up to that. I've got that feeds into one of my later questions. But one of my first, what's your favorite kind of fishing to do? And I know you do a ton of different kind of fishing.
I do. I thought about this answer too because I knew it was going to be asked. It's sight fishing.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter what the bug is.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just.
I would agree with that actually.
And it goes back to, I mean, you're probably the same way. Like I almost have an affliction where I cannot forget fishing related stuff.
Sure.
Like it just, I go to a river and it all kind of like floods back, like everything that I've ever done there. And I so distinctly remember one of the first fish catches of my life was in my, a creek in my grandparents' backyard, and I was dragging a worm under a bobber over a laydown, and a smallmouth just came up and smoked the thing. But I watched the entire thing happen, and that was what ruined me. And very soon after that, I actually had a largemouth blow up on a frog, again, just as like a small child. I'm talking like 7 or 8 years old. And ever since then, I remember, I mean, I would just pathologically walk around looking for opportunities to sight fish, like just wade fishing saltwater, which is like, there's not a lot of opportunities to sight fish doing that kind of stuff. And that's what, made me fall, like, that's why I love trout fishing so much and why I've stayed here, because there's so many interesting opportunities to do that kind of thing. Carp fishing is like that as well. But I really, it's not that I don't like prospecting different
Sure.
types of rigs and
Sure.
things like that, but I
Yeah,
really,
given your I think sight fishing is just more innately more interesting.
it is,
Yeah.
it is. It's a
Yeah, it
puzzle.
allows you to make those. One of the things I can't remember who I was talking to about it, but like I think if you're a good sight fisher, like I talk about this like fishing a beetle all the time. I do fish a beetle blind a lot of times, and but you fish it like you're fishing it to a fish.
100%.
And I think when you become a good sight fisher, you start to fish. Even when you're blind fishing, you start to fish like that.
Yep.
You just imagine that there's a fish down there, and you're kind of covering every little bit of water. Sight nymphing is a great example of where you can see the fish and you're making the cast and it's not going by him.
Yeah.
So like when you're blind fishing, you make the same cast 1,000 times in a row. It's not going by him. Maybe, that's a thing that you learn sight fishing, where like what I need to let out 6 inches more line, or I need to turn my body a little bit and just get a little bit different. And sometimes very often that makes a difference.
Yep.
But you wouldn't know that if you hadn't had that sight fishing information from before.
100%, 100%. Yeah, it's so much more engaging. I think about it a lot, carp fishing specifically, but I think a lot of carp fishing, like cast to catch ratio.
Sure.
Like one of my favorite things is like going out in the morning before work or something like that, like 2 casts, 2 fish.
Sure.
That kind of thing.
Sure.
Or like 3 casts, 3 fish, and try to do that kind of game. I don't know. It just gives me so much. And I feel like I love this game and fishing and everything involved with it because of how much you can learn, and like no matter how much you probably agree with me, it never fucking ends, no matter how much time you spend on the water, and you learn the most when you can see what's happening.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yep.
it's
just that much more feedback.
Yep.
For
Yep,
sure.
yep,
What's your favorite fly to fish?
Max. I knew you were going to ask me this also, and I did think about it, and it's interesting because I say it to customers all the time, like I don't have really deep fly boxes. Like I kind of just fish a pretty narrow range of flies,
Sure.
honestly.
And most people probably do.
Yeah, 100%. I think my favorite fly is probably my messmaker, just because it's mine.
It's yours, yeah.
And it's the first fly that I feel like really is mine. Whereas the whole witch doctor leechador thing, like at the end of the day, like that's just a zonker on a hook, and
Sure.
like there's a lot of things that could do what I was doing. It was really the weighting
Sure.
of that
Sure.
that did it what I needed to do. But yeah, I mean, I think that I really do fish it religiously. I really don't prospect around any other dry flies.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I really like that. It really, I mean, I made it, so it really suits my style
Sure.
of fishing, and it
Sure.
really just makes sense to me fishing it.
Yep.
But I would say the other things in like heavy rotation are honestly your stuff. I mean, it's mole flies, which came for me serendipitously before I started working here. Actually, it was Daryl over at Anglers all turned me
Sure.
onto it.
Sure.
And I think all of us are in the same boat on that.
Yeah.
Like it's just such a killer. It's such a staple. And then baby gongas. Like I struggle with the baby gongas. Honestly, piss me off because I tie so many different streamers, and I want to a big mantra of mine is like I'm not gonna submit something or try to make something my own if it's not my confidence pattern,
Sure.
and I cannot fucking
Sure.
figure out a fly that I'm more confident
yeah.
in than that baby gonga.
Yeah.
And I've tied so many different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So many different
No,
things.
I know.
It's
You
just,
can get other flies that also work, but yeah, that's.
there's nothing else I have more confidence in streamer wise than that. So
You just need to expand your horizons.
Yep.
Yeah.
always,
It's just other kinds of fishing.
always.
What is? Let's see. First of all, here this one will fit in nicely here. What's in your little fishing career that you've had thus far?
Yeah.
In your little, how's that? What's the best fishing lesson you've learned this year or in this time?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Wow. I mean, the thing that jumped to my head immediately is patience, and just being more patient. I can definitely, when I was a redfish dude, like I was very much like trolling motor on high, like
Sure.
just go and cast and burn, bang, burn, bang, burn, bang. And when sight fishing opportunities present themselves, I would slow down. But I still fall into that a lot with trout fishing, where at the beginning, I think of fly fishing, I was much more apt to kind of settle into the puzzle of like figuring out one fish, where now I'm much more the kind of just a power fisher kind of person, where like I'm going to take one pattern, I'm going to hopefully catch 70 to 80% of my fish of it. If I run into a problem fish that isn't particularly interesting for a certain, like I'm just going to pass them by.
Yep.
And I think, fishing with you has really shown me that. When we fished the Arc, just the hook set stuff, you know what I mean? And just have, you know, you know me just as a person. Like
Sure,
I'm
sure.
very
High strung.
high strung
is the word you're looking for.
tunnel vision kind of guy. And I think that was something that really stood out to me fishing with you is just in everything, in the hook sets, in the cast selection, in everything. It's just a bit of a,
Sure.
you know,
Sure.
just
And it just comes with time.
let me zoom out a little bit.
And
Let me
you know,
zoom
and
out a
I've
little
said
bit.
this to you before. You remind me very much of me when I was young. You're actually younger than you. You know, when you first start, you want to catch them all.
Yep.
And then as you get older, you want to catch them how you want to catch them. You want to catch them that way, and that's you know, like you're talking about the mess maker and just sticking with that plan. You know, I think is just how an angler evolves over time.
For sure.
And I think that's one of the things that keeps it so interesting is you can always make the game harder. You're never
Yeah.
so good that it's not challenging at all anymore.
Yep.
You know, when we fished with Russ the other day, he was making fun of me making long casts.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I like making long casts. You know, like it's not about catching every fish. It's about having a good time and
Yep.
doing it the way you want to do it.
Yep.
You know, and after enough years of it, you start to do that.
Yep. And that's another thing that I'll say, like in terms of lessons, like you know, like I fish with so many people that come into
Sure,
the shop.
you do, yeah.
And it's one of my truly probably my favorite thing about working here is just the people that I meet and
Sure.
the opportunities that I get to go fish with different people. And that's something that is like constantly reinforced to me is there's so many different ways to do this.
Yeah,
and at a
absolutely.
high level,
Yep.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's not like everybody kind of ascends to a certain pinnacle.
Right.
And once you get to that pinnacle,
they all
you're
do it the same way from there.
Nah, man, everybody's got their stuff.
Yep.
And we talk about this, like so many people do it kind of in their own little silos.
Sure.
That they evolve these interesting little quirks to how they go about doing things. And that, you know, just in terms of lessons, like that lesson of just the ways to, we talk about this with carp a lot. Like carp are notoriously like finicky eaters, but when you talk to everybody who comes in here, they all catch them on different stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
it kind of starts to crystallize in your brain that like, man, maybe it's less about the
Right.
things that you're
Sure.
throwing and how
Sure.
you're throwing them. You know what I mean? So just kind of that idea of there's a lot of different ways
Yeah,
to
it's
do
just
this.
building that knowledge base.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That was a great answer.
Wow.
That concludes. No, it doesn't. Let's see. You talked a little bit. You have another job. You're in the service industry still.
Yes.
In addition to the service industry here at Charlie Slybox.
Yes.
Do you want
yeah.
to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. No,
wanna
I've
tell us
worked.
about that?
Yeah, that's kind of my alter ego. I've worked in restaurants my whole life. My family works in restaurants. I've done everything. I've worked in kitchens. I GM'd a restaurant in Florida. I just serve now, which is mostly what I've done. And I think it serves me very well in this industry.
Sure.
Because, I mean, customers in here just are not difficult in comparison to
Oh,
that kind of
absolutely,
stuff. I mean,
yeah.
just point blank
Yeah.
period. Even the most difficult guy in here is it's not even a blip on the radar
Sure.
at a job like that. And you know, it's always if people have worked in the service industry, it's a certain culture, it's a certain type of person, you know what
Sure.
I mean, that I feel very connected to, and all that kind of stuff reminds me of my family, reminds me of home, reminds me, you know, it's just kind of a cool core part of my life. I've thought many times about quitting and kind of trying to do another thing in fly fit or whatever, you know what I mean? But honestly, I really enjoy kind of like
Sure.
staying tied to it and having that separate group of people. I really look forward to seeing them every week. I work at Steuben's downtown. If anybody wants to come sit in my section, I will serve you mimosas on Sunday, work Sunday brunch.
Only on Sundays.
Only on Sundays, which is a pretty unfair gig, if we're being honest.
To who?
I've
Everyone else, maybe.
to everybody else. Yeah, no, I'm really lucky to have that situation.
That's your cross to bear.
I'm very lucky to have that situation. So.
What else? You sort of already jumped. Your favorite part of working at the shop is all these cool customers.
Yes, it really is. It really is. And, you know, it's just the people, like the people that we work with and the customers, you
Sure.
know what I mean? It's cool to pick Jaren's brain. It's cool to pick your brain. It's cool to pick, like, everybody who takes this seriously has something to offer.
Sure,
And, like,
sure.
I try to learn, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, I mean, you know, there's so many places that, I mean, you know, and we hear it from customers all the time. You know, so many people hate their jobs.
Yeah.
You know, this is not a job. There's no reason to not be having a good time at this
No.
job. This is a pretty damn fun. I've done
Yep.
it a long time, and it's a pretty damn fun job.
Yep.
And you know, my part of it these days sucks. You know, like mine's real work
We've been
these
talking
days.
about
You
that,
guys do
yeah.
the fun stuff.
Yep.
But it's still a lot better than going to work for somebody else for sure.
100%.
You know, or someplace where you're, you know, not to knock selling tires, but selling tires.
Yeah.
You know, maybe if you're super into tires, that's your thing. But you know, for what we like to do, this is a pretty
Yeah, it's
pretty cool
awesome.
gig.
It's like any job, you get wrapped up in it. Sometimes you have bad days or whatever. But I've never worked a job where it's there's never has there been a job easier for me to just be like, dude, what do you like?
Yeah. Yep.
Come on.
Yep.
This is because I talk to my other friends who do stuff they don't like. I talk to customers in
Sure.
here who do stuff they don't like, and it's so easy for me to just be like, man, I got it pretty fucking good in here.
The key to all that is there's not one thing in the store that anyone needs.
Yes. Yes.
So this is an all want-based economy here
Yes.
at Charlie's Fly Box. So we just make wishes come true. Which
And nobody
makes-
comes in here to have a bad time.
Nobody comes in a bad mood, generally speaking.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Usually this is people's reprieve.
Yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? So
yeah.
it's cool to be just a part of, you know, you never see anybody on a bad day, really.
Yeah,
in here.
that's true.
That's good.
That's a good way of putting it.
That's good.
I'm going to finish off with my one last question for you, and I know you have a couple.
Okay.
Tell us about. We asked Jason about his hidden talents, and he is a classically trained choral singer.
Oh my God.
What is your hidden talent?
Oh my God.
I know of at least one of them.
Yeah, I was in the circus when I was in college.
That is not the one that I knew.
Yeah, I was a juggler in college, kind of good at it, honestly.
Huh.
Skateboarding and surfing.
Skateboarding is the one I was going to
Yep.
say. Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up surfing first, and like surf competitions and all that kind of stuff. But then just got into skating. I want to say, dude, it's funny. I actually got into skating because I started pier fishing more, and I started realizing how many fucking sharks were in the water where I lived, and people would get hit by them like kind of frequently. You know what I mean? And I just started kind of
This
being
dry
like,
ground stuff seems pretty interesting.
yeah, dude. Yeah, like, because I started night fishing for sharks a lot too, and I just started pulling so many that I was like, man, I'm not gonna surf
Maybe
unless
it's
it's
not the
like
safest spot.
really good. Like, it's got to be really good for me to go out there. So yeah, then I started skating, and I mean, I've fished my whole life, but I would say that was my main fixation for probably 4 or 5 years. I
Wow.
would say. Which you can get a lot done in 4 or 5 years. Got pretty good at it.
Yeah.
So, and I still do. I try to. I kind of have a no new tricks rule for myself now.
That's what
'cause-
you got to do as you age.
Yeah. I try not to.
I have a no new tricks rule for myself as well.
Yeah, because I've hurt my knee and my ankle pretty bad now, more than once. So I just try to go. I actually went last night. Try to just go cruise around and have a good time, and kind of another different community that I get to
Sure.
kind of like interface with. You know what I mean? But I'm trying to think if I have any others that you guys might not know. I had multiple art shows when I was in college. I was a big
Yep.
painter in
Yeah, we've
college.
seen some of that around here.
Um,
If you're lucky, sometimes your envelope when you order from
Yes.
us online at charlieslybox.com may have some original Max artwork on it.
now that it's winter again, I'm going to start getting bored. And that'll start happening.
Yeah, you
again.
might have some time. Yeah.
That'll start happening again.
Yeah, you can ask Stephen Hankins about that.
Yes, he's got a whole collection. But yeah, other than that, I think I can't really think of anything
Really
else.
all you have to offer.
It's all just juggling and skateboarding.
Juggling, skateboarding, and
Going
a
fishing.
little bit of fly fishing. Well, there you
pretty
go.
much
There's
it.
our resident juggler, skateboarder, fly fishing expert. Or
Expert's a strong word.
It is. That is a strong word.
Expert in training?
Expert in training. Yes, expert in training. Max Beauchene on his 29th birthday. We'll interview him again next year. See if it's any smarter, better, more well versed. But we're glad to have him. And like I say, one of the best hires I've ever had. So there he is.
Look at that. Glad to be here.
Take care, guys.